Number one is the facility, is it enclosed completely, roofed in? You said it only had 2 walls, north and south, correct? No roof?
No.
Yes, it has a roof.
It has a roof?
Yes.
Okay. All right, because based on our calculations, which I used to do this quite a bit, building wildlife guzzlers for the state of Texas, but per inch of rain per square foot of building surface, you get 0.2 gallon, or 0.62 gallons per square foot per inch of rain. So based on your facility site, you would have approximately 23,250 gallons per inch of runoff. With that facility not being enclosed, what's to keep that water from flowing through and picking up garbage and whatnot that has, even if it has gutters on it, if it's not enclosed on 4 sides, what's to keep the garbage that has blown out not being picked up by that 1 inch of rainfall when your holding facility is only going to cover 10,000 gallons? There's basically a deficit of 13,250 gallons per inch.
It is good.
Which on an annual in Bastrop County in that region, we annually get 36 inches of rain a year, which equivocates to roughly 837,000 gallons of runoff from your facility alone. It's going into Cedar Creek. It's eventually going to wind up in the Colorado River. That's going to go downstream and affect the rice farmers that are drawing water from LCRA's, their allotments that they have through LCRA. So what's going to keep all that stuff from winding up down there and affecting our rice in the future, as well as going into the Gulf of Mexico?
Okay, so let's give him an opportunity to respond. Okay.
Okay, so the pavement around the building will be drained away, designed to be graded away from the landfill, or the transfer station, apologies. I'm just dealing.
You've already.
So the pavement is draining away from the building, okay? There is a curb set up within inside the building, so any of the water that is inside the building will get collected to and into that 10,000 gallon approximately tank. So any water that is inside that building will go to that, and then we will pump it off and discharge it to a get-together.
Well, what happens when we have a Harvey event, or we've had
24 inches right across the
we've
street.
had 3 100-year rainfall events since 1982, where Cedar Creek has gotten out of its banks. It's been 600-800 yards wide. You've got a 10,000 gallon storage facility for your runoff. The facility are there solid walls around that facility or not? I mean, anything to keep the garbage from just washing down the street?
Our runoff, the 10,000 gallon tank you're referring to is not about stormwater. It's about water that is within the building that may emanate from the trash or from when we wash the floor. That is not for rain.
Okay.
Our stormwater, as Brett has said, we've had a professional engineer conduct a hydrologic study and design our stormwater management, our culverts, and that water actually runs through a basin before it is discharged. So it runs through a retention basin, so it is retained. As far as the litter, any litter that is outside the building that could potentially be picked up is picked up daily. It's part of our standard operating procedure that is in the application. So we pay close attention. We have wind screens at the openings of the building to collect litter. We have a perimeter fence to collect litter. We have 47 acres, and we have somebody out there picking litter every day on our property, and 2 miles one way and 2 miles the other way.
Okay. I have one more question. Where is we established that we're collecting garbage from a number of different locations. Where is, this is a transfer station, where is the end landfill? Where is that going to be?
We utilize facilities owned by Waste Management for disposal, including sites in Travis, Williamson, Como counties, etc. So those are the sites we use for disposal.
Okay, is any of that going to possibly go to the proposed site on 130? Is it going to be off 130?
We have no relationship or affiliation with that facility, so at this point, and whether that's, and when that's built, so I don't know, but at this point, I would say no, right now, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
That's the model up here, Waste Management.
Yes, sir, you have a question?
My name is Robert Artis, and I just had a question for you two gentlemen here. In the PowerPoint, you mentioned that this facility is going to improve air quality. That seems kind of counterintuitive. How does that work?
Because they think it's fresh trash. It's 5 days.
When you take 3 trucks and you're running 3 trucks to a landfill, you're burning more fuel. If you take those 3 trucks and put it in 1 truck, you're burning less fuel, less air emissions.
You got 300 trucks coming in.
So we're talking about just kind of a fossil fuel outlook, that sort of thing, not necessarily. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Juan Valera. Did you guys say that you would be accepting hazardous waste? Is that right?
Absolutely not.
How do you know?
Lead batteries or anything like that?
No.
How do you know? What's in a trash can?
Thank you. So that,
My name is Martha Black, and how come you can't use the transfer facility that's already at 413 FM 20 in Bastrop? If y'all already own that company, that's where I take my recyclables now. So why can't you just do that, since you're not real popular here today? And just also, you say you don't take hazardous. In people's garbage, they throw away everything from oil that they take out of their car to all their batteries that they use in their children's thingies. So that's hazardous waste.
so if that is a concern, because obviously it is, you
But
want
I
to
really
bring-
wanted to ask why you can't use the place that's already up there at 413 FM 20.
Okay, so we'll see if they want to address that question. As far as the concern of, things being in people's trash, that's a concern. You may want to bring that back up during the formal part, okay?
Did you want to address the location or the use?
Yeah, the facility you're referring to is a very small notice type transfer that is very limited on what it can accept. So it doesn't meet the needs. It doesn't meet our intent to develop a regional facility. So that's why we cannot use it.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, folks. Thank you all very much for coming, and especially you gentlemen from LEALCO. We all know that this is not a pleasant endeavor for you, but I hope you understand that we are quite concerned. And to give you a breather, I've got some questions for the TCEQ. So under the process of investigating flood risk, including have floodplain maps and the flood insurance rate maps been consulted? Or is that still ongoing?
Hi, sir. As far as floodplain concerns, our rules require for the facility to include a map from FEMA that would identify the facility location and the 100-year floodplain. And they have done that. They have included the map, and they also stated that they are not in the floodplain, and the map actually shows that they are not within the 100-year floodplain.
So was that statement accompanied by a certified survey? In other words, has TCEQ seen a survey of the property to indicate the level of the proposed facility.
I understand. Our rules require them to include a floodplain map specifically from FEMA. So there is no requirement in our rules for them to investigate or do survey of the facility if they are clearly not included within the floodplain.
So has TCEQ put boots on the ground and on this property to ensure that the maps match reality?
Again, I understand your question and concern, but our rules do not require our agency employees to go out there and do a floodplain study of the area because we rely on that flood insurance maps that come from FEMA.
Okay, so that's the TCEQ answer that's based in the rules.
Right.
But if it's a concern for you, then you bring that up in the formal part. Okay?
It's just a
That's-
question.
Yeah, that's the answer. But if it still leaves you with a concern, then that was something you want to raise in
Okay,
the comment.
thank you. One more question, please. Can you explain to us what the significance of the 100-year flood mark is in this circumstance? On the maps, there is an indication of where the average 100-year flood line is, and so how does that demarcation, how does that flood line along the Cedar Creek come into question in your investigation?
Okay, rules are very specific in regards to floodplain, and the construction and operation of this facility, the building, the transfer station building, the facility itself is not going to be built within the 100-year floodplain. And in addition to that, we talked about surface drainage, and the facility is supposedly to provide a drainage design that will cover the peak discharge of 25-year event. So our rules address the 25-year event, and they did that in the application. So in regards to 100-year floodplain, you only look at the data from FEMA. Since they're not in the floodplain, that's the extent of our review.
Sir,
Thank
you
you.
just have a couple, okay.
That's all.
Watch behind you. Yes, sir, you have a question?
Yes, I'm Phil Cook. I've lived in the Cedar Creek area, about 40 years now. I'd like a follow-up question to that about the FEMA floodplain maps. Have you seen the new data that FEMA has recently put out that raises the 100-year floodplain in that area by several feet?
No, sir, I have not seen it.
Do you plan, now that you know that it exists, do you plan to find that data and look at it and incorporate that? The new data is what you need to go on, not the old, outdated floodplain map. Do you plan, now that you know that that's out there, do you plan on?
Definitely, since you brought up to our attention, if you give us, provide us the link and the information that you're referring to, if it's FEMA,
It's FEMA.
Sure, I would definitely look at it.
Okay, so, but I would need you to enter that in the official record, so you can write
I
it
just
down.
wanted the opportunity to ask
Yes,
the
yes,
question.
and then make sure the follow-up, don't take this, because this was the informal. So make sure your follow-up on that information is in writing to turn into us, or to speak it tonight in the formal. Yes, sir.
And of Mr. Ring and Mr. O'Connor, have you done any mapping, current mapping of aquifer outcrops in that area?
We'd have to refer to the application, but to answer that specifically, I don't have that in front of me.
I have looked at the application, and it says your facility is not in an outcrop. There's updated information on that, and I would like you folks from TCEQ to know about this also. It comes from the Texas Water Development Board. Your property and the actual facility itself is on the edge, the very edge. It may even be within the facility. It's hard to tell from the maps, the updated maps that I've looked at. And you can get these maps from the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District, and they got their data from the Texas Water Development Board. You need to look at this, because an outcrop of the Wilcox Aquifer, a major aquifer, is either on your property or directly downstream. Every drop of water that runs into your property is going to go into the, or pass over, and a percentage of it will enter the Wilcox Aquifer. That is a major aquifer in this area. It down dips all the way, almost, well, about 70 or 80 miles will be the down dip of that. And you need to look at that. The facility, my statement is the facility is in an outcrop of the Wilcox Aquifer, and that fact is not reflected in the permits, and TCEQ needs to take a direct look at that. The property itself is what, about 200, 300 yards from Cedar Creek, and flows directly into Cedar Creek, which is a major tributary of the Colorado River. And I've seen nothing about that in the permit and no comments from TCEQ about that.
Thank you. And again, I want to encourage you to take those statements.
Oh, I will. I just wanted to be,
okay, so we need those to be part of the
folks
format.
about that.
Okay. Yes, sir, you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Robert Arsenault, and I live direct on Oak Forest Drive. And I got a question for the gentleman here regards your facility. When you're going to build it, and in the case of a severe rainfall, what is your liability to take care of the environment behind your facility in case it does happen? Like, are you going to clean up the creek? Are you going to, how does that work?
Well, let me just say that should we incur a major rain event like we've just seen, we would have plenty of advance notice. So we would have plenty of time to make sure that any waste in the building was removed and hauled away, that our facility was cleaned, and we'd have plenty of time to redirect the waste to other disposal facilities. So I don't foresee that becoming an issue as a result of a heavy rain.
So by putting a facility in and filling up 3 foot, you're blocking the flow of our properties at Oak Forest Drive from runoff down into the ditch. With raising your property, you're blocking the water to flow off. So the properties up the road are going to be influenced by that. And I do question that if we do have a flood, that your facility will be prepared for that at that point. And my question was, what is your general liability on that? What is there a value to it if in case there's any damage environmentally? Is there like 10 million, 20 million?
Oh,
we clean it up regardless, whatever it's going to take.
You're asking if we carry pollution liability insurance? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Yes, absolutely.
And what would that be? Does that take care of all the damage caused by that facility?
It would cover quite a bit of, it would cover anything that I could imagine happening as a result of that would be covered by that coverage. Yes.
All right. Thanks.
All right, folks, do we have some new questions?
I'm sorry, I've got one more follow-up question.
Okay, so before we go into more, has someone not had an opportunity to ask a question? Let's get new people first. And then we'll do repeats.
Okay.
My name is Michael Carl Johnson. My family has land that's been in the family since the late 1800s on 812. And I'm wondering, because they're going to truck in vehicles to this place, what is going to happen to 812? Is it going to turn into a 4-lane road with turning, which will start taking houses and businesses and stuff like that?
Okay, so I don't know if they want to address the roads and.
I have a letter right here from the highway department that wants to do a survey on our property.
Okay, so the notice that was issued for this meeting is specifically in regards to the application for the transfer facility.
Okay.
So we can answer questions related to that application, the facility, the environmental activity of that, but not necessarily things out of our jurisdiction. Okay, is that something that we can address, or is that out of our?
Because I heard him talk about the highway department.
We coordinate with the highway department just on the direct impacts of traffic from the facility. And we are getting some input from them at this time that we don't know exactly what that is.
Okay, well, like I said, they want to do a survey on our property, which tells me utilities and all that, which is telling me they're wanting to widen that road because there's enough traffic on that road, it's suicide anyway. Now, you're gonna run another 300 more trucks a day down here?
And night.
Okay, so to answer your question is, they're working with them, but they don't know the response yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, I have two questions. The first one is, just to back up a second, the gentleman from LEALCO, how much does your liability insurance, when does it max out? 10 million, 20 million?
I don't have that with me right now, so I don't have that.
How can you not know this?
So that's his answer.
That's his answer,
I mean,
okay.
you
All
asked
right,
the question,
let me
that's
tell
his
you,
answer.
let me
So-
just tell you something, sir, and everybody here. If you live in Central Texas, and I'm not asking you where you live, but there's been years of battle over our groundwater in Bastrop County up to Burleson County. This is the jewel of this community. So you're going to hear a lot of feedback on this, and I want you to answer our questions tonight or when you can, because if not, I promise you there will be hell to pay. I'm sorry to say that. Now, here's my question. We've been told, I'm not an expert on this, but we have been told by people who understand these facilities that we should ask you to close this building. It should be closed all the way around. How committed, how open to that request are you really? 10%? 40%? 50%? And the follow-up question is, what would we have to do to get you to close this building?
The design of the building is based on years of operating these facilities. We can put signs on the building, but the signs will have doors, and the doors will be open all day. So there'll be very little difference between not having signs and having doors that are open the whole time. That said, when it's time to close the doors, there'll be no trash in the building, so there'll be no point to closing the doors. So trash comes in, it's loaded out. And that's our standard operating procedure. At the end of the day, we like the floor clean, and so shutting the door would be shutting the door on an empty building. But to operate the facility, the doors would have to be open during operation hours.
So is your answer to my question 0%? 50%? 80%?
That's his answer. So, but if you still have a concern, you can enter that into the comment period. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ed Hodnett, and a question for these gentlemen, follow up on hers. You said the floor will be cleaned daily, but I understand in the application you're allowed to keep about 1,000 tons up to 72 hours.
Yeah, the application prompts us to answer that question. There could be reasons, logistic reasons, equipment issues. There could be a major accident on the highway. There could be reasons why the floor does not get cleaned on occasion. That is not the standard operating procedure. If that does happen, we would employ tarps to cover the pile. We also have a new odor neutralizing and deodorizing system that would be at the openings of the building. And so that misting system would work to also enhance the use of the tarps and such.
Well, to your point, the building, I understand industrial buildings would be open most of the time when you're in operation. But if you did come on that circumstance that it needed to be closed, instead of tarping it, you can close the damn doors. That would seem to be a relatively small give for us that live right around it. My main question and concern has to do with the number of vehicles. You said at build out, or at maximum capacity, you're asking for 2,500 tons per day, in and out, theoretically, every day.
Yes, right. Correct.
What does that equate to in number of trucks coming in?
It's about 300 trucks.
About 300 in,
roughly.
And then, consolidated into larger trucks, how many going out?
That 300 includes The outbound.
That's total. Total in, total out, increase, egress.
Yes.
That's my biggest concern, but I'll talk about it in the form. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am, you have a question?
No, I was a little tardy, apologize. I'm a transfer from the big city of Houston, Texas, and I chose to come out here. I know it's a statement, so I'll go with the question. So the point is, the quality of life is really nice out here, okay? And so my question is, where are the current transfer landfills? Where are they, I mean, give me a few, if you don't mind, a few examples of places of where they're at. Some towns.
Transfer station?
Are there transfer stations?
Transfer stations.
That already exist?
Correct.
Do you know any off the top of your head? Any other transfer stations?
And landfills. Okay. So
Sure, I mean, we have multiple stations. We've got one in Houston. We've got one in Haltom City outside of Fort Worth. We have one in Johnson City. We have one in Palestine. We have one in three Crockett, I think,
So
Palestine.
in this area,
we've got several.
So in the 100 miles radius, about where?
We don't operate in,
And so how did you come to the
other
conclusion
than the Johnson City.
of Cedar Creek? Why Cedar Creek? Why not Austin? Why not Elgin? Why not San Marcos? Why Cedar Creek?
Our siting effort led to, of course, we look for roads and intersections that we know will be developed over time, and so that is part of our siting criteria. We'll look for the best places to situate things for our regional operations, and it led us to that property.
And who makes these decisions again? I was tardy. Who makes the decision for the people? Who makes that decision that this is the best place?
Well, the company that is making the investment makes the initial decision, and then we make application to the regulatory agency.
And you mentioned that Creedmoor is going to be, someone mentioned Creedmoor is going to be no longer in use. Why couldn't we use that facility? Someone mentioned that, maybe I'm wrong. You're wrong.
No, come on.
No. You're talking about the one in Bastrop proper is...
The one down 812, closer to 133.
Because it's the infrastructure in that area, the property, it's permitted only for a 40-yard container, which is a very small amount of trash. So that facility, that location would not handle this type of facility.
So this is going to be much bigger than that one, much larger. How long, when you mention it's a transfer, how long is that transfer wait time? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it?
I think y'all said that 70-something, 2 hours.
Well, it's 4 to 6 hours on standard. So again, as waste is coming in, waste is going out. So that at the end of the day, the waste is gone.
Okay. I guess the others are comments, but,
All right, thank you. Okay, so do we have new questions? I just want to monitor the time only because I know that I have quite a few oral comments here, and I don't know how many more signed up at the back. So if we've got new questions, go ahead, sir.
Yes, so I've got 3 questions. One is this the only site under consideration? Was this your only choice, or did you have other locations that you contemplated?
Of course, we looked at multiple properties. This was the conclusion.
Okay. Have you two personally set foot on this property?
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, you've been down the road and you've seen the traffic pattern, seen where there is that it's a 2-lane road. And the reason why I'm asking that is because, in my opinion, there is no turn lane without